Today's video is sponsored by Aspirantum, the Armenian School of Languages and Cultures. Aspirantum offers a wide variety of language courses, both online and in person. One of the in-person courses is the Russian Summer Language course that will be taking place in Yerevan, Armenia, from the 3rd of July to July 30th, 2022. This course includes 80 hours of intensive Russian instruction over a period of 20 days, from Monday through Friday each week. Each day of class includes 4 hours of Russian instruction, with each day including exercises to improve grammar, vocabulary, listening, speaking, reading, and writing. The deadline to apply for this course is May 25, 2022, so use the link in the description below to check out Aspirantum's intensive Russian summer course, and please, if you are interested, you can also email the administration for further details if necessary. Aspirantum also offers other courses, including online Old Persian, taught by yours truly, Middle Persian, also known as Pahlavi, the Persian language of the Sassanid period, and Modern Persian, also known as Farsi. Check out the Aspirantum website for more details on all of these courses today. Financial aid is available. Now, back to the video. Hello everyone, and today I have a good video update for you. So, if you thought development of Chivalry Remastered had stopped, you were mistaken. So I just released an update a couple days ago, and I've released a few mini patches since then to fix some of the major issues. But a sort of beta update here, major, has just released, so I've got alpha and beta versions of the Era campaigns as well as the Crusades regional campaign released. Now, High Era and Crusades, the Crusades one I wouldn't say is playable, it's just not ready. That's why it's pre-alpha. The High Era is, it's playable, it's just not that different from the early era. There are just some minor changes, but I have to change it to make it more historical. But the reforms are in, the appropriate reforms, so at least that much is there. And the early era now has full reforms from early era to late era. And then in the late era campaign, you have the late era reforms. And this one is a beta because I have made a lot of changes and added a lot of factions to make the late era more interesting. So let's get into a couple of these campaigns and show off some of the changes. All right, so here we are in the campaign playing as Anjou, and I'd like to let you know that Anjou is actually stable now. It was causing issues before, but I believe we have nipped all of those issues in the bud. And so you might notice here that we've got a bunch of new portraits for a lot of the characters now, thanks to Ezekiel Lupo for helping out with those portraits there, and Ganim has also helped out a lot with this update, especially with new sounds and advisor portraits as well. Just without them, this update would not be as cool as it is. So something about this I want to show is that you'll see that the early era, we're in the early era campaign, and you'll see that the household knights in the early era, they look a little more 11th century now. So they have the nasal helmet. They look very 11th century, rather appropriate. And then when you get to the early, mid 12th century, that's when you'll get the reform for the High Era. Bodyguards and knights, so they'll have a sort of early great helmet, the enclosed helmet, right? And their stats are a little bit better as well. Yeah, and then of course, yeah, the early era goes all the way to the late era now. So that's pretty nice. I probably want to change, how many turns you have per year so that it's easier to get to the late era without having to play 1,000 turns. But in any case, yeah, now let's take a look at the High Era and a couple other changes here. All right, so as you can see here, we're in the High Era campaign selection screen, and it's not ready, right? So I've made a couple of additions and changes, but it's not ready. You can see like Aragon still has its early era symbol. It's not quite ready. So, but let's get into the campaign and I'll show you a few things. So as you can see here, we're here in the campaign as Milan, and you can already see that in the High Era campaign, you start out with the sort of enclosed nasal helmet for the household knights, or just the enclosed helmet. So those are the standard chivalry bodyguards that you see, not the early ones that I have added for this update. And then, of course, in the late era, I will show you what you start out with there. But in any case, let's quickly lift the fog of war here. All right. The keyboard was behind my microphone, but in any case, there are going to be a lot of changes in this campaign. For example, I think the county of Anjou is going to be axed here. I might give them Provence instead. So it'll be Angevin dynasty in Provence. What else? Aragon is going to be the crown of Aragon, right? So it's going to be a sort of different dynamic there. There's a lot to do here. Additionally, of course, in the Levant, instead of the barony of Kilikien Armenia, you'll have the kingdom of Kilikien Armenia. It was made a kingdom in 1198 or 1199. The boundaries here have to be different. We're going to have the kingdom of Jerusalem as a faction, the county of Tripoli, and the Principality of Antioch as well will be independent factions, of course. And of course, the Fatimids will be replaced by the Ayyubids, right? And of course, in the High Era campaign, the Grand Seljuk Empire will no longer exist. There will be a larger Sultanate of Rome, of course, and the Kingdom of Georgia will also be more powerful and larger in the High Era. And of course, the High Era is when we're going to see Mongol invasions as well. So that's going to be quite interesting indeed. And of course, the other thing about the High Era is that the Byzantine Empire is going to be completely fractured and destroyed. So we'll have the Empire of Nicaea here in Western Asia Minor, the Empire of Trebizond in the northeast, and the Despotate of Epirus, of course. And of course, Bulgaria will actually be not just a rebel kingdom, but it will be, the Second Bulgarian Empire. And of course, next up here, we have the late era campaign, the 1311 AD start date campaign. And as you can see, I have done a lot here. So all of these factions are new for the late era campaign. So you've got factions like the Kingdom of Majorca, the Mamluks, the Golden Horde, the Ilkhanate, Epirus, the Hospitallers, the Kingdom of Sicily, the late era Kingdom of Sicily. So this is no longer the Norman Kingdom of Sicily or Hohenstaufen, but it's the late era sort of Aragonese Kingdom of Sicily. You have the Kingdom of Cyprus, right? So this is the last of the Crusader states. You've got the Kingdom of Naples, and let's get into the campaign here, and I'll show off a couple of differences. All right, so here we are in the late era campaign as the Kingdom of Naples under Robert d'Anjou. And as you can see here, we've got our late era bodyguards, the sort of Great Helm bodyguards, right? So the bodyguards in the High Era have the enclosed helm, and in the late era, they've got the Great Helm. But then, of course, later on, there's going to be an even later bodyguard. I will show later. They are not implemented just yet. But of course, in this late era campaign, you actually have this is Pisa kind of in its post-defeat state. So even though it still controls most of Sardinia and Corsica here, it is very weak and unstable. So Genoa has the upper hand, definitely. And Venice is also much more powerful. Of course, the Byzantine Empire is restored here. This is the Paleologan Byzantine Empire, but it is, of course, much weaker than in the earlier eras, of course. Additionally, you've got the strong Bulgarian Empire here. You've got new provinces, new colonies here. So you've got Naples with Dyrrhachium and Corfu here. You've got Venice with Crete and Euboea. You've got the Kingdom of Sicily controlling Athens, right? You've got the Despotate of Epirus at Nicopolis. You've got the Empire of Trebizond at Trebizond. And you've got the huge Ilkhanate here that's sort of dominating things in the east and fighting with the Mamluks, right? So you've got, of course, a bunch of beyliks here, including the Karamans, who border the Ilkhanate and Ilikian Armenia there. And you've got the Kingdom of Cyprus, very interesting campaign. The Hospitallers have an interesting campaign as well. You've got Genoa controlling Chios. Still the Byzantines controlling Lesbos. You've got the Beylik of Aydin, the Beylik of Menteşe, the Ottoman Beylik as well. And you have Genoa controlling Amastris here, so and Kaffa and Temutaragan. So very interesting start positions here. And of course, you've got the Empire of the Golden Horde in the north here. The territories here of the various states I'm still working on. You've got Denmark in control of Estonia, and actually the Teutonic Order up here as its own faction. So you've got the Hospitaller Order and the Teutonic Order. And additionally, what have we got here? We've got France controlling more territory here. England controlling Bordeaux. And in southern France here, you've got the Kingdom of Majorca in control of Montpellier and Perpignan. And having kind of salty relations with the Crown of Aragon. And other than that, yeah, you have the Nasrid Sultanate of Granada, which has a very poor position compared to the Kingdom of Castile and Leon and the Crown of Aragon that it borders. And then, of course, in North Africa, we have a whole new situation with the Mamluks, the Hafsid Caliphate, the Zayanid Emirate, and the Marinid Sultanate in North Africa. So, yeah, things are pretty interesting here for this late era campaign. Of course, there are new units as well. I can't show them here at the start here, though I suppose I could if I found the siege equipment here. Yeah, no, not... Yeah, can't find it here. But there is a bombard for the late era, a sort of late era bombard made by Syrianus Dagovax. There are arquebusiers, there are early musketmen, there are pikemen already implemented. So yeah, we could use all the testing we could get for the late era campaign, especially because it's in beta, not in alpha, like the high era. The high era is going to get a lot of changes, that's for sure. But the late era, in terms of the start positions and things, there are still tweaks to be made. But it's, all in all, pretty good. I know Preslav has got to go, I know. But yeah, in any case, I hope you enjoyed this video about the update to Chivalry Total War Remastered for Total War Rome Remastered. The late era campaign, it's out. It's not fully done for sure. There are still a lot of things to tweak and fix, but it is definitely in a sort of a testable state, right? All the factions are there pretty much. There are other factions I do want to add. For example, Lithuania is a faction I definitely want to add, at least for the late era. And there are a lot of tweaks I still have to make to the British Isles and things of that nature. But other than that, that's pretty much everything I have to say about this update. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you enjoy videos about the historical Total Wars and their mods, consider liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and I will see you in the next one later. One last thing, remember I have created a new channel devoted to history called Gudea the Historian. I just put out a couple of videos. One is a tier list of Armenian kings, and one is a tier list of Sumerian 3rd millennium BC monarchs. So please come for the tier list, stay for the historical discussions, subscribe if you enjoy historical content, especially about ancient Near Eastern history. And yes, I will see you in the next one.